Hi everyone, welcome back to Introverted Indies. We're here today with another mental health panel. This is a really popular subject actually for authors, and so this is the second part. You can view the first one also on our YouTube channel. I'm Lucy A. McLaren. I'm one half of Introverted Indies, and I'm a dark fantasy author and also a counsellor as well. So this is a subject that is very close to my heart. I explore it in my books, and obviously day to day I'm working with people because of their mental health.
Yeah, so I'm the other half of Introverted Indies. I'm Lydia Baker, and I just work with kids. So yeah, it tests your mental health, I think, working with kids. So would you all like to go around and introduce yourself? So Linda, would you like to introduce yourself first, please?
Yeah, I'm Linda. I write primarily fantasy. I've written urban fantasy. I'm working on an epic fantasy series right now, and by day, I'm a psychiatrist. So kind of like Lucy, we're both in mental health. So this is a subject that's pretty important to me, which is why the title of the panel, you know, resulted in me putting on two hats at the same time while I joined.
Fabulous. And Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, I'm Emily Flynn-Jones. Originally from Wales, but coming at you from Toronto. I'm a multimedia storyteller, so I work across games and more traditional fiction. Project manager and lecturer and by day. Predominantly what Wendy Dalrymple calls pink horror, and that is very much focused on the femme experience in life. So, neurodivergent, chronically ill, currently in cancer recovery and treatment. So there's a lot of comorbidities there. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Alongside that, I really incorporate my experiences with mental health into my work, because you just can't avoid it. They are kind of horrors, and particularly from the femme side. So that's why I really wanted to be here today and speak to that. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us. Sounds like we're going to have a great conversation. Jill, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Jill Davies. I am surviving in California, and I write dystopian science fiction and horror. And I'm also a freelance editor for developmental online editing, and I do market copy and freelance art as well. So we're kind of fully entrenched in the publishing world. I'm a parent to two neurodivergent children. I'm neurodivergent myself, and I'm really excited to talk about the balance of like kind of how writing fits into mental health, and also I think really is a great vehicle for exploring and upholding and creating almost like a community that supports mental health, like both in the reading, the writing, and in the connections.
Absolutely. So this brings us on to the first question then, which is what do you feel has the biggest impact on an author's mental health? Who wants to take that one first?
Well, in a way, this is not quite related to my work, but the other day I saw a post by another creative. He's a musician, and he spoke about feeling really lost and repressed for years when he didn't realize what was going on, and when he recognized that it was about embracing that creative side of him and just accepting that this was a part of him, and not kind of saying this is not my real life, this is just a distraction, I have other things I need to focus on to help improve. And I really resonated with that, because I think that's why all of us do what we do while straddling the other things that we do in our lives, because it is a part of us. And sometimes it takes undoing the narrative that has been ingrained in us since we were kids, by society, even by our current roles, to, it's a whole work in progress. So I kind of liken my own life, my own journey as a work in progress, so not just my manuscripts.
I think I would say that like when it comes to writing, there's two sides of, I guess, like specifically like when you're publishing your writing, there's the actual creation of the work and the writing and bringing it to life and bringing it to completion. And I actually think that that's like hugely supportive to mental health because, you get to watch yourself have the audacity to do something that so many other people say they want to do or are also working on, but you're the one that's doing it. And I think that in addition to like taking something from inside of you and putting it out there, it's also just like the unabashed belief in yourself that you must have in order to do that, that I think is like can be really bolstering. And when it comes to publishing, that's just constantly at odds with then like the marketing and social media side of things, which like that's where like the battle of like imposter syndrome and compare and despair and just reality versus expectation comes in. And there's this very large like duality to it where you're both like the most self-confident and audacious person in the world that must believe in yourself to even dare to do it, and then you're one of everyone else online, which just intrinsically can be so damaging to anyone's mental health.
Joe, that resonates so hard because, yeah, writing is freaking punk. And it is. I don't care what you're writing. You can be writing the most like generic, this sounds horrible, like this romance fiction, which I've done for a living, right? At times. But no, it is to put yourself out there. And I love that way of framing it. I agree with what everyone says. I think the things that challenge us the most are external factors because this is not our primary job. Most often as indies, it is our passion, our craft. You have to balance that with so many other things. And um, I think a lot of people were simultaneously enabled and had the disadvantage of coming to write more full time due to radical underemployment because of their circumstances, whether it be the pandemic, your neurodivergence, which we know makes you less employable, illness, or disease. And those are the reasons that I am able to write, but also not able to write a lot of the time. And those things entangle very much with mental illness. And I think, like, while we're talking about mental health, we need to say mental illness too, because, like, these are diagnoses that and things that people are trying to deal with, and there are diverse things that we struggle with. And so, yeah, for me, that has been quite a lot of this struggle, simultaneously feeling guilty about not being a quote unquote productive member of the capitalist regime. Even though, I still work three flipping jobs at the same time. Yeah, so that feels like a struggle a lot of the time. Craft and art, your punk, the things that you want and need and get out of writing and pour into it that fuel and feed you, and that also can express the things that you are feeling as someone who is struggling with their mental health, which I do put into my work, but then also balancing that with all kinds of other labor, invisible or otherwise.
Emily, I think you make a really good point that I thought of is when you said we can't talk about mental health without including mental illness in the conversation, and we hear that a lot with physical health as well. That there is this bar of morality that like as long as you're healthy, you hear a lot, but like health of any sort isn't guaranteed. And so when, like when we talk about and consider mental health, like it's so important to remember that like health can include illness because we don't get to decide if we are well or ill. And the construct, especially like the social construct that we're functioning in, and like, like the deterministic, like universal morality of it, like the bar can't be you are not ill in order for us to consider health and reaching for health, because like it's an unobtainable bar for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. I think that's validating for a lot of people. Important to say.
Yeah, it's such a broad spectrum of experiences that people have. But I feel like the universal agreement is that writing is something that we're drawn to. It's a passion, and it also is something that we put a lot of ourselves into in terms of if there are struggles that we're dealing with in our own lives, it helps to explore those within what we're writing. It's a way of processing it, it's a way of dealing with it. But it feels like it's sometimes a fine balance to find. I mean, personal experience anyway, is like you can lean on it too hard as something that's going to help or feel good. And sometimes that'll be, for me personally, pushing myself too far, like trying to keep like writing even when I'm not like mentally able to in a given day, and it feels like it's difficult to let myself step back from it.
Because as much as it is an outlet for a lot of things, you've also got to be kind to yourself if you're not in the right place to do it as well, isn't it? It's getting that balance between, yes, I can use this as a tool to help me and to convey some of the things that I'm passionate about or that I want to process, but also not making yourself do it when it's not the right moment and you're not in that right place.
Mm-hmm.
How do you all take care of your mental health? What things do you sort of put in place, or what boundaries do you have to help you with writing and your mental health?
I get asked that question a lot as part of my job because I am in my clinic all day dealing with people's problems. And honestly, I would say that if I hadn't discovered writing, I really wouldn't know what outlet I would have, because I'm not a very physically active person. I'm only exercising nowadays because for health reasons and not because I enjoy it. And the writing helps me kind of express something that I can't say when I'm with my patients. I have to filter a lot of myself, and then I also can't process everything that's happening, and I do it later on. I've written, one very distinct memory from about a year ago. I spent about 20 minutes arguing with a lawyer one afternoon, or rather, I think she argued with me. I wasn't intending to argue with her, and then I went home and wrote an angry scene, which I have kept in one of my manuscripts. Yeah, so that's helpful. That's helpful, just being able. And, this lawyer will never read my book. This lawyer will never know which scene it is, which is great. That's the beauty of it.
I kind of wanted to.
Yeah, and then after I wrote that scene, I wasn't angry anymore.
That's great.
Yeah, that's one way I take care of my mental health.
Yeah, I think for me, like writing actually, it's always been a part of my life, but writing in earnest and writing seriously, and the writing that led up to deciding to publish was actually like a component of my mental health. Like when the year before I decided to publish my first novel, my oldest was born 3 months premature, and that was a very difficult journey for the both of us, health-wise and mental health-wise especially. And so the therapist that I had at the time encouraged me to write about it. And that was, of course, nonfiction, and that was like in a blog that I was putting out that was originally just meant for like family and friends because I wasn't able to communicate with anybody. And like it was through that writing that I was like, this is really helping, and this is such a good medium of expression, and it's something that I've always done. So I think I want to divert away from my life back into my fiction and take it on seriously. And so there is a huge mental health component to writing where, like maybe I'm not writing about my own life events and my own trauma, but boy, am I packing it into the themes and the stakes of the stories, and that can be quite therapeutic. But also when I frame writing and telling a story as kind of a radical act of like, belief in myself, it really does help to like, whatever I'm able to achieve. Every time I can set a goal for myself and work toward it, like there is this edifying component of look at you, look at what you're able to accomplish. That's incredible. That helps. And so then for me, because I'm very goal oriented and I'm very all or nothing, and I can be very rigid, then the balance then becomes I'm doing this thing for myself versus like that drive in me kind of breaking me down because sometimes goals can be hard to reach. And so that becomes a balance of doing this thing for myself that's helping a lot versus reining back the drive in me that can make that transform from a positive thing to almost a negative feedback loop of I'm not doing it fast enough, I'm not meeting my expectation every single day. And so that's maybe one of my bigger struggles, but I just try and like not set goals all the time and set goals that I know I can accomplish consistently. Like I only have a word goal when I'm actively drafting a novel. And I set very reasonable time goals for like, well, from this period to this period, I'm going to edit that book. So I always try and like, not accidentally set myself up for failure by being too aspirational, but keep the goals so that I'm like always working towards something.
Yeah, I really resonate with what you're saying there again. The writing is catharsis and it is a part of my health. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a way of like speaking about the things I see and I feel and experience in the world and then like frame them through the lens of horror, which is, I think, absolutely perfect because it already is horrific. We just don't see it sometimes, right? I'm a black mirror, basically. And that is really helpful to a point. But then also, like if you do have ADHD or ADHD, I can get hyper fixated and I will realize that it has been 15-20 hours and I haven't done something else, including like go to the flippin' bathroom, eat, nourish myself or whatever, which I also have struggles with. And so there's that element of passion and commitment that I have to be very aware of and careful of. And then there's also, I know it sounds bonkers and just like so opposite that in real life I'm a project manager. I can organize the heck out of anybody else. Myself, no, absolutely not. So for me, it has been a case of kind of scheduling with care and generosity how I spread and divide my time because there is reality, there's other works. I calendar things carefully. I literally schedule in rest. It says like uh, honestly my day will just say nope for the whole thing. And I mean, sometimes that just doesn't work out because of factors, right? But have to try and you feel like you're stopping and you're gonna lose something like momentum or lose something, but you're taking a pause and you will come back to it and it'll still be there. You will be more nourished when you return to it, and also trying to work out ways, which I have not found yet, to completely switch off from things because your characters live in you, right? And so do your stories. So even on my rest days, there is still like a presence there, and I'm trying to work that out by at least calendaring in nope days. That's been
I like
very
that. Nope days.
I just want to add to what Jill said that she's You said to be kind to yourself. And I remember when I started on this writing journey, and I was very torn, like, why? I was almost in this, like, why me type of mode. And to encourage me to go ahead, my husband actually just said, you go ahead and always remember to have fun. If you're not having fun, don't do it anymore. And those two words actually help me to draw boundaries when I need to, especially when marketing gets to me, especially when it feels like, the imposter syndrome is hitting, perfectionism, and it's something simple to bear in mind for me that helps me to pull back and kind of nope when I don't feel like pushing on, like Emily says.
That's beautiful. I'm so glad you have that support. And fun, I think, is important. Words like catharsis and processing things, but I don't think I've heard anyone say fun in a really long time about writing, even though we are having fun. That's not how we frame it because it's supposed to be damn serious, right? Also be fun. So that I think that's a really glorious contribution to the conversation.
Yeah, it is. Otherwise, to an extent, if we're not enjoying it on some level, why would we be doing it? Why would we put ourselves through this? You know what I mean? Like, you've got to be having some fun with it on some level. And then maybe there's certain processes within writing a book. I mean, marketing in and of itself is, in my opinion, horrific, and has a huge impact on mental health. And that's counterbalanced by the joy that I take from creating stories. Nothing is gonna ever stop me from doing that, no matter how much I struggle with other elements of the process of putting a book out into the world.
Yeah, I can't think of another term, but like there's an odd feeling almost postpartum when you're done with a book. Like there's a little bit of like a mourning period. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, wait, my baby is is done now, and now I have to do all this horrible stuff that I really don't want to do, and you're not motivated to do because you're not trained to do, and you have to be a cheerleader for yourself when you are in a very potentially vulnerable and sad state. Like it's all kinds of jobs wrapped into one, and it's very tough.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you are vulnerable when you put out it's your heart and soul, isn't it, in your writing, and you put that out into the world. It does make you vulnerable. And do you find that you have like other people? Like I know that I speak to Lucy when I'm doubting myself and I'm struggling with things. Do you all have other people that can sort of lift you up and talk to you about those things?
I'm really grateful for the community that I found myself in. I have different people I talk to different degrees, and one person that I really, really talk to. And the funny thing is, I've never met all of you in real life. And I live all the way in Asia. I'm in a completely different time zone. There's a good chance I never will, which is so sad. And yet at the same time, I'm connected. And this connectedness allows me to not feel so alone and not feel so isolated, which is something I think a lot of people don't quite understand. That's my TLDR. Yes, I have one person I got to.
I think that actually being enmeshed in an author community is a huge component of like the mental health of it, because I could compare when I first started and I first published and I didn't have any presence in any author space at that time, and there was like an isolation but also an unreality where like anytime I would look at what I was doing and compare it to what other people were doing, I only ever saw people's like professional personas and their professional presentations, and it creates such a false idea of what being an author is like, what success looks like, and what people are actually doing and how they're actually feeling, and like what the experience of being an author is actually like. Because you hear all the time like that social media is highlights reel, that it's not real, right? And we see so much of that in the author space. If you don't have like a core community of like all of you have the veil pulled back and all of you are looking at your own writing, having your ups and downs, having the same struggles on some level with marketing, and like needing the same types of supports. Like you've got to have real people, authors in your life to ride those waves with, because like I can have a wonderful home support community and they are intrinsic to my mental health, but they can't help me with the very specific types of feelings and experiences that I have in publishing. The things that they say matter, but like it's one of those like, well, I see how you could say that. And I love that you're proud of me. And I love that you love me no matter what. But like I need something different that you can't give me. That only another author that is sharing this experience can provide. That connection of like other people who understand and other people who you can talk to about it. And it's not just complaining or lamenting. It's connecting over like we are choosing to do these struggles and we can be open with each other about both our struggles and our victories. And so I've built over the last 5, 6 years a pretty incredible network. It's constantly being added to and evolving, and that relationship and that network has become so intrinsic to my view of what I'm doing. And it's given me such a clearer picture of what this world of publishing is actually like, and having a realistic view of it makes all the
Mhm.
difference in how I feel like I can interface.
Amazing. I'm so glad you have that, and I'm sure it takes a lot to build. I guess I'm relatively newer, coming out of games, into more traditional publishing. That Yeah, I definitely feel a wonderful community. I think Instagram is the healthiest for me right now, but and like you guys, you introverts have been glorious in supporting me, but I'm still in a position where I don't feel like reaching out to people to be like, hey, chat, like we cool, we friends. I don't think I have that confidence about me yet. Publishing in anthologies has been great for, building up people who we mutually kind of boost one another on social media and congratulate. And I think all of that is deeply genuine, but have not built like uh, relationships with. I do have an author best friend that I talk to. She writes autopathographies, and we bonded over Calciprese, having uh, being diagnosed very young with chronic degenerative autoimmune diseases, and that's what she writes about. And um, she helped, like, we review each other's work. She was my editor on my first book, and that kind of support is fabulous. But I haven't, and I think I do need it, but I haven't been brave enough to dip the toe in and ask for genuine support, because I want to be cautious of other people's capacities too, right? Um, I guess I'm just not quite sure where to begin there. It's not like I don't feel it or that I couldn't. There's something stopping me from really getting enmeshed in the community. I think I need to earn it a little bit more, honestly. Like, I'm only a book deep, so, and a couple and some shorts, so we'll get there.
Yeah, I would encourage you to do it, Emily, because I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised at the response that you'll get. Like my experience has been this is a real positive side to social media because social media is such a crap show. I started back in on Twitter back when I was first writing my first book, and that had a great writing community before it went to hell. And now, yeah, I agree that Instagram now feels like the safest place for that. But yeah, I think you would be pleasantly surprised at the response you would get if you did reach out to someone, because my experience has been that other authors, whatever stage you're in, whether that be writing your first book or several books down the line, authors are want to share the experience with another author, because it's like Jill said, it's like that level of empathy that you find with other authors that people that don't write books just can't. I don't know, just can't understand it. Like, I'm sure my husband, I'm sure, is very confused about the fact when the days that he sees me like struggling with writing, he's like, "So just stop doing it." I'm like, "Well, no, that's not going to happen." Yeah, so that's my kind of take on it, is that a lot of authors on social media and active in the writing community are happy to create those relationships.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would say that, a lot of us, myself too, we're all actually introverted. We all hesitate. We're all kind of like, do I do this? Do I do that?
I think a good place to start when you're looking for community, because there is a component of we all must turn to social media because in our lives these days we're all so disconnected, even in our own home communities. And so finding other people who are interested in what we're interested in, doing what we're doing, like there is a component of needing to seek that out broadly because otherwise we wouldn't be doing this, right? But I think one of the things that really helped me begin to like build my own mindset about it was seeking out local events. And so forming some foundational in-person relationships, which, oh my God, I just said the scary words, right? See people in real life. But like doing book events at local indie bookstores where I am not just interfacing with the people in my community, but also with booksellers in my community that fundamentally share my values and my passion for books and storytelling. And then I did the Sacramento book festival back in May, and that was incredible because I met like authors like from like within a 2-hour radius of the area. Those relationships are like still foundationally there, and I know about their books, I know about their processes, and like they have kind of also become like a community that like, hey, this thing is happening in this area. Let's figure out how we can do something about it kind of attitude. And so, like, that local connection, even if it's small, I think can really kind of be grounding. In addition to, like I said, I don't think it's possible to live like an exclusively local life. Like, we have become as a society so international and so online based that like that's also important because there's the audience component of writing and marketing where you're building a community, building a following, but that's online, and that relationship and the people that are in there, it's still very different. Like there's still a veil up compared to like the people that come offline with you are the ones that become that close community. I've got like an author text group that I could say anything, like I can say my like writing high for the day or just, bad day, I quit everything. Somebody do it for me.
Yeah, no, I have an opportunity on Saturday. Actually, I'm going to meet someone. We have a book launch, or we're doing the local book launch for an anthology we're in. So I'm going to meet a fellow author locally for the first time. That'll be nice and a start, I think, and I hope. She is more introverted than myself, so we'll see how that goes, but maybe has even more connections than myself and can forge a connection. And the bookstore is great. They are a horror exclusive bookstore. They're amazing. They're passionate, and I've worked with them before. They're lovely. So yeah, I think the local thing is really nice and important, because those tangible things, you just need them sometimes, right? Something to actually grasp onto.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for sharing those. Yeah, I think where you can find the local elements, it's fantastic to be able to have that. But if you feel that's a struggle for whatever reason, whether you feel like you're not ready for it or it's difficult to find in your area, social media provides that opportunity. And I think it's good to take the positive from social media where you can. So we'll get on to our final question, which is what is your top tip for authors who are struggling with their mental health or mental illness?
Therapy.
Go book an appointment with Lucy.
Or Linda?
I know it's not affordable or accessible to a lot of people. I'm really lucky in Canada that I qualify for like free access to services, right? Because of diagnoses. But yeah, that you yes, everybody needs that objective outside. I know we've just talked about the insideness and the importance of that chatter, but there are also things that we need to manage that can only really be framed or help you reframe by an outside source, I think. I think it's really, really important to have that external support when you just don't feel like you can go anywhere else.
I would struggle with the concept of giving mental health tips because I feel like we have that slippery slope of the just be happy mode or conversation about mental health where it's like, well, you just take care of yourself and you won't be ill. And it's not so simple, right? Because there's no tip that anyone can give or receive that will, uh, you know, unwind the complex issues of anyone's individual mental health, whether they are very mentally ill or doing well, but like everyone else struggling because because the structures that we have are challenging. The things that work for me to make sure that writing is more of a positive than something that begins to erode at my structures is to like not conflate my self and my value and my identity with my work. I have always struggled with my value is in what I offer, what I do, my accomplishments, and unpacking that and rewinding it where I am more than whether or not my book sells or whether or not I got that Kirkus star or whatever, right? The value needs to be decoupled from the process and the result. And you know, I think the boundaries there. Sometimes I just have to get offline because online is this space of shoulds and compare and false images and while it can be such an edifying space and a great place to be and you get ideas and opportunity, right? I've never sold books like I do having an online presence. So that can be hard, that pressure can be hard, right? Because it's well, if I don't post, then I'm not going to sell a book. And if I don't sell a book, then why am I writing all these books? But those boundaries for me are so important because if I get too spun up on the work and the value and the result, I can feel pieces of myself and my identity, my worth becoming enmeshed in that. And it's so important to try and step back. And that's an ongoing struggle for me, which is why I try and be aware of it because I don't know if there is a person on earth whose mental health is not affected by the amount of online we are these days. Because it's a lot sometimes it's just time to sit outside and think about birds.
So I would say my tip is similar to Jill's, but I'll word it this way, which is in the context of mental health, writing as a craft should be a tool for someone to explore things, to jot down their thought processes, even memories. And then if you can craft it into a story that resonates with people, great. But it shouldn't become a crutch, which is where all that comparison and social media and marketing comes into play. So I would say don't let it become so enmeshed that you forget that there are other things beyond that.
And giving yourself time to do other things and being okay with being like, no, this isn't the time to do it. I can go and do something else. Yeah, allowing yourself to do that, I think I find that important, knowing when to
Although
stop.
in my own experience, easier said than done. I've fallen into my own traps.
It's so easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, no, like I didn't have such a bad experience with that with the book as I did with my first game, where like I was honestly catatonic for like 3 weeks because it wasn't selling no matter what we did, and we had money for marketing even, like, and I was just like, what the hell is happening? I don't know what else to do. So then and that I still definitely struggle with, but the goal should be to make the thing that you want to read and that represents the values and the things that you believe in and that you enjoy, and put that out into the world. Like that should be the goal, not the profit of it. Unfortunately, that doesn't pay rent. So what has helped me is like kind of identifying some of my more unhelpful patterns, right? My tendency to overwork, lose track of time when I am absorbed in writing or whatever. So like set timers. So I think something that could be helpful to other people who can hyperfixate is to kind of identify those sort of things, but also then if I miss those patterns and I'm getting a little bit too deep towards burnout, which if you get neurodivergent burnout, it is not get outable in the same way at all. It is extreme and it is devastating, and you don't see it coming because you've been having the thrill of putting so much energy into something that you've enjoyed. It's close to fun um, when you're doing it, but you don't see it coming. So, like, identify your canaries in the coal mine, pushing myself too far. And for me, that's things like, oh, wait, I did not read a book this week. That's probably not good. Or, hey, I didn't do a puzzle. Like, whatever your things are, if you're stopping, taking time away, and doing the things that you enjoy outside of your work. And it can be reading, that's fine. It can be related to the craft. Um, but just try and take notice of those things, and that can help protect yourself a little bit if you are prone. And like, I know, Jill, like advice is just so difficult, but there's no one size fits all. But these kind of things have helped.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's difficult, and it's a thing about finding what works for you ultimately. But thank you everyone for sharing your tips. It's really appreciated. That was the last question. So that brings us to the conclusion here. We'd love it if you could all share a bit about yourselves, where to follow you, perhaps your latest book. Emily, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, well, this isn't my latest book. The copies of the latest book are being held hostage by my friend in Toronto. So, yeah, this is my first published short story collection. Is It Enough Yet? And you can find me on Instagram pretty much exclusively under Final Girl. And then my website is emilyflynnjones.com, and you can find out what the heck it is that I'm doing. A little bit more about the novella that I just got contracted for. So I'm actually under deadline for a change. So that's interesting.
Exciting. Thank you. Jill?
Okay, so I'm Jillian Davies. You can find me at JillianDavies_books on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads primarily. I write dystopian science fiction are my published books, so I have an ongoing series. I don't have any of the books because I'm out of town right now, but Due North, Into the Deadlands, and Hearts of a Vanishing City. They are a not so unreal dystopian world. The only difference is that the zombies are literal and the problems are gory. And I'm currently working on a creature feature horror novel that you could consider, imagine if Lilo and Stitch were a horror story, or I say like a monster in a French bulldog Edgar suit is the other way that I'm describing it. And that one is a whole lot of fun, and I'm having a great time writing it. So I'm hoping that maybe by the end of the year or next year, that one will go on submission. But yeah, I also have a website, jilliandavies.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And Linda?
Okay, so I'm Linda Ling, and you can find me primarily on Instagram at Linda Ling Writes. I'm currently working on 2 series. One is an epic fantasy series. The first book is coming out in December. And I'm also in the middle of publishing my vampire series. This is the first book, and it's very meaningful to me because in this book, and it took me a long time to realize this, in this book I explore culture and identity. And this is the second book, which is my latest book. The third book is going to come out sometime next year. I don't have a website, but you can follow me on my newsletter. That would be in my link on my Instagram page.
Thank you, Linda. And you can follow us at Introverted Indies on Instagram. And myself, I'm at Lucy_A_McLaren. And Lydia, yours is?
Mine is l.l.baker author on Instagram. So yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, everyone. It's been a fantastic chat, and hopefully people have taken some tips or have just things to think about, reflect on for their own writing practices. Thank you very much.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.